Hello and welcome to Mangaroos. This is episode 16, and it's the first one after Golden Week, so this means that we've all had a huge break, and we're all super rested, and we're going to bring the best episode of our lives. Because today we're talking about Ajin, which is known in the Anglosphere as Ajin, Demi-Humans. Have you ever had the sneaking suspicion that you might be more than just a regular human? Well, maybe this book is for you. This was brought to you by originally...
AKA, have you ever been a teenager?
Have you ever been a teenager?
Have you ever been in the second grade of middle school?
Then this could be for you. No, this is originally brought to us by the author Sakurai Gamon. And he had I don't know how you put this. It was like an artist. He was the artist for the original volume, and then they had like a story, like the person who made the story. It's a Tsuina Miura, but he's only there for volume 1, and then after that, it just goes all to Sakurai for all the way through the 17 volumes to the end of the story. But
was there a creative falling out?
I don't know. I looked into it, so I did a little deep dive, and Sakurai Gamon is the only one who's come out on the issue, obviously, because he continued to put out the manga for 16 more volumes after this one. He said, no, it wasn't like a falling out. It's just like we talked it out, and I said, I got this one. It's cool. And he did. I mean, he took it across the end, 17 volumes. It sold like, almost 10 million volumes worldwide, which is an impressive feat. It's more than I've sold in my entire life. It's got a terebi anime, for those of you who are keeping track. It's also had a live-action movie. Yeah, that came out in 2017. I've watched it.
Oh, really? How?
So I make the terrible mistake of watching live-action anime movies just because I don't know. I've got a soft spot for them somewhere, except for the Dragon Ball one. It was made kind of by the same people who made the Rurouni Kenshin movies.
But those were like good, actually.
Those are good, yeah. It had a very similar vibe. It focused not so much on like volume 1. The deeper you get in Ajin, and full confessions, this was a pandemic read for me. I got obsessed early on in 2020, and I was just reading it digitally. It was the first comic that I ever read all the way through digitally, and I'll never do it again. But it was very easy to do because they just kept coming out. And there was so few, after the first volume, there's so few words per page. I think it's because they got rid of Miura, and he was just like, I just want to draw guns. Yeah. And the rest of the story is just him drawing guns.
There are a lot of guns, and there's like planes, explosions, like...
Oh my gosh.
It's like, what's that Wild Speed movie called in English?
I think it's called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down. Well, anyway, We're gonna walk us through this story. I am Mark, and I am joined here by...
Hey, it's me, Jason, broadcasting from an abandoned cabin somewhere in the mountains.
Oh, man, I'm in that same remote mountain village because I was put down remote mountain villager Alex.
Well, maybe I'll see you here in this
You'll
remote...
see me in
Wait
the
a minute, I just turned around, and it turns out we're broadcasting from the same remote mountain hut.
Not so remote after all.
Small world, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it is Kanagawa, so how remote can you get?
Fair enough.
Many of us are in Kanagawa, and maybe many of the people...
I'm actually not in Kanagawa, but spiritually in that remote mountain,
Mark is just
I was
talking
in
about the
Kanagawa.
human race.
I'm talking about the human race, yes. It's a prefecture with a lot of people. I don't even know, maybe top 5, top 6 population in Japan, if not the world, but... time is ticking on that. So, to get into the story...
a lot to unpack here.
To get into the story, so this came out in Good Afternoon, which is brought to us by Kodansha in 2012, and then it ended in 2021, so we're done. But we're only talking about Volume 1 today because it's what we do here on Mangaroos. So this is we have to put it in a genre. Okay, so Good Afternoon is a seinen comic anthology, whatever, but the genre specifically is action, as what it says on the back cover. And then Vertical, who put this out in English, also added dark fantasy and supernatural thriller. So looking back, I could have picked this for my thriller, but I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't.
But it got me thinking about it, so here we are. And I wanted to...
what did you pick as your thriller? I thought this was your thriller pick.
Oh, whoops, it's been so long that I forgot. We'll edit that out. This is my thriller pick.
Wait, what? Did I miss a category? Okay.
You're right.
Yeah. Actually, this is your thriller pick.
You're right.
Well,
It's
we'll
what Golden
blame
Week
that on the
does. It
Hokkaido
resets
virus.
everyone's lives.
It does. I feel like I've had a hard reset. Okay, so I want to ask one thing that I feel like we often skip is like recapping the story, just giving a synopsis.
That is true.
And I wanted to make sure that we covered that this time by asking both of you to recap the story, volume one, just volume one, in one sentence. Alex, I'm going to ask you first, and then Jason, I would like you to follow. Alex, go.
Wait. Can we Can we try
No?
something, Alex?
Okay.
Can we try building a sentence together, one word at a time? So you say the
Okay.
first word, I say the
So-
second word.
Oh, well, so my sentence was a question. So the
Okay,
first word
then
is
the answer
what?
is no. Oh, what? Okay. Let's try it. Go ahead.
What?
Happens.
When? Shadow.
Ghost
Can.
appear.
When?
Okay, no. We tried. I do kind of want to see where we go.
I added another when if you want to go with it.
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
Wait, so what do we
wait,
have so
let's-
far?
let's-
What happens when a shadow ghost can appear? When? Person.
Is
Ended. There you go.
We did it. Perfect plot summary.
That was a perfect sentence. Okay, so yes, basically this is a story about humans who have evolved past the current stage of most of our listeners and those of us speaking here on the podcast to become a organism that when they do die, they immediately regenerate and come back to life. So that's pretty much their main superpower. Some of them also have a couple of other superpowers. They can scream real loud. It scares people, which I think my mom has that. And then there's
I think a
also
lot of people have that.
a lot of people have that superpower. And then they also, many of them have the ability to project these black ghosts that are made out of some sort of antimatter that other people can't see, but these...
Wait, so that's only many of them? That's not all of
and it's
them?
not all of them, and that's a very important
word.
Yeah,
plot
it
point.
just seems like a lot of them can because when you read this manga, it's like everyone can.
Yeah, and
Also, they can fight real good.
they can
most
fight
of
real good, but Nagaike, he has one of the strongest black ghosts out of all.
Yeah,
the
because
Ajin.
he's a teenage boy. It often happens,
With a two.
especially in Japan.
With a dude. Okay, but that's
The bigger
exactly...
the chip on your shoulder, the more powerful your Ajin.
This is true. Actually, I think for him, it was the earlier you decide that you don't want to die, then the sooner your Ajin like black ghost develops, and the stronger they get because they have more time to mature.
So you should expose your children to more death situations
Wow.
to strengthen their will to live. Is that the moral of the story?
I think it could go one or two ways, so
Okay.
I don't think we can really advocate for either path
Okay.
at this point in the story. But yeah, basically this is about the main character, Nagaike, who finds out that he is an Ajin when he is unfortunately hit by a truck when he's studying in his mind for his school exams. Now, what did you think of the main character? Jason, you go first.
I just realized his name is a joke. Nagaike. I never thought about that before. So his name literally means live a long time, boy. I don't know. I didn't really think anything of him. He's such he's such a chunibyo normal manga protagonist.
What a normie.
I feel like he's
he-
not chunibyo enough.
He could be a little more chunibyo. Maybe he
think-
becomes more so in later chapters.
No, he becomes
was fine.
He becomes more and more like Detective Conan to me. He feels
Yeah, like I think he's too adult. Like he's too pragmatic and he's too driven by his will to survive. And it's like to me not like what a normal teenage boy is like.
Yeah,
they're
he's
not that
definitely-
reasonable.
He's not super realistic. Like at one point, he's like, "Well, I broke my leg, but I'm still gonna steal this motorcycle and drive away.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just have to deal with it." You know, and he doesn't seem to be in any pain at all. So
well, no, I think
Say that like
that's when
dying hurts and stuff. but
Isn't that when
yeah.
he slices his neck so he
He slices
regenerates?
his-
also he
neck, yeah.
slices his neck, but like no big deal. He just
Yeah,
like
he's very fast to adapt to the situation.
Yeah, real fast.
Immediately, he's like, okay, what should I do? What should I do? Should I find Ajin to live with? Oh, wait, they can't die. So what if I hate them? Wait, I should find humans to live with because they can die. So that's even more convenient for me because they could die if I don't like them. Like, the ability to, like, think like that, like, within hours after you realize you can't die, it's like...
He is quite clever. I liked his friendship with Kay. I thought it was sweet that he had sort of kept him in mind, even though they didn't really
Kai?
keep in touch.
They just have very similar names.
Kai and Kay.
Oh, Kai. I'm going to be doing that at least a dozen more times this episode. Excuse me. Yes, Kay and Kai, BFFs. I thought that was nice. That was his, like, one kind of human element. And I thought he was well drawn.
Yeah.
Like most of this manga.
No, definitely. Sakurai Gamon, I mean, he brings his A game with the artistry, everything.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I asked you was your best panel and worst panel. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I think the level of artistry that he brings to not only just like drawing people and drawing things like guns and whatnot, but like the artistic spin he puts onto just like the scream. So I'm looking at page 26, this one here. It's the first time that, you know, Kay just hit by the truck, and then you find out a little bit later that Ajin, you're able to put out this like scream that causes other lesser human beings to freeze in terror, and the way that he materializes that on the page with this squiggly wah, is just like, that's pretty intense. That takes a little bit of artistic thought.
I do wonder if that was him, or one thing I noticed at the end of the volume, which you don't see very often, is the assistant was actually credited.
Yeah, I mean, assistants do a lot of heavy lifting for a lot of things.
I don't know, Tatsuya, but I agree.
Sometimes
the
people
wording...
do credit assistants. Like, it's not that insane, but
it happens,
they say
for
like
sure.
It says like tone masking like Sagyo. Like,
so does that mean he would not have done the lettering, that assistant? I don't know.
No. So like it says tone, so like it would probably be most like there's a lot of tones actually. Like now that I'm looking at it, like so this person was probably just like working overtime on like toning this manga.
I hope you got a break.
They did a great job, whoever they are. Yeah,
and like
in addition
when they
to
the tone and stuff. Sorry.
If we're talking about the art, I thought just the sense of movement, like the combat parts, especially the fight near the end between the two Ajin. The one who has a triangle head and the one who has a round head.
Tanaka's,
Just like the fluid motion of their bodies was really, really nicely done, I thought. And
like on this page when the fist goes through the head.
That's exactly the one I was thinking of.
Man,
and the fact that neither of them really have faces allows you to just focus completely on their bodies and the way that they're moving. And I thought that was extremely well done. Just a lot of stuff in motion in this book looks really good.
Yeah, this person is like really good at action. Like it feels like you're watching an action movie when you read this manga.
Totally. Yeah. So a lot of really nice art in this one. Kind of reminded me of like American comics in a sense. It reminded me like a lot of Image comic stuff and like Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, that was my childhood. Oh man.
Well, you know, I just feel like I can feel that sort of influence there, in addition to obviously manga influence. But
of course,
so I thought it was nice to look at for sure. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I think we've already talked about whether, you know, what kind of character Nagai K was. Did you have a character that really stood out to you? Like, of the people that we meet in Volume 1, who would be your number one pick for best character? Alex, I'd like to hear from you first, and then Jason. Think about this.
Well, I mean, in Volume 1, it's mysterious why Kai is so, like, cooperative, but he's like the all-star of like Volume 1.
He's just like a good guy.
He's like a really awesome like motorbike driver, and he can like do aerial kicks and like survive.
And
like,
he's not hesitant to kick a police officer in the back of the head.
Yeah, he does like anything.
Those are the ideal character traits of like a 12-year-old boy's dream character, basically.
And this is like, if you had anyone who you need to be your friend, you'd want him to be your friend. It's probably why Kay was telling people don't go near him, because he didn't want to lose his friend. Who could like, you need to have one friend who would, without asking any questions, take you on a motorbike and get you out of town
Across
and, like,
prefectural
make
lines.
sure you're safe. Yeah.
That's how I arrived in Kanagawa, actually. I didn't choose to live here. There was
Kai brought
one
you on his
very-
bike.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also real good at kicking people.
He is awesome. He could start his own soccer team. Would it surprise you to know that after Volume 1, Kai pretty much takes a back seat for the rest of the series?
Yes and no. I think this first volume definitely has that thing where it's sort of feeling itself out in the first few chapters. I felt a weird tonal shift from the start of this first volume to the end, where like the first couple of chapters almost felt like very shonen-y to me, like best buddy adventure type stuff. Even the way Kai is drawn, he almost looks like he's from a different manga. Like he
looks like he's from Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I was gonna say Shaman King.
He should have like a yo-yo.
Yeah,
Or Shaman King.
He could appear in either of those and look totally not out of place. And so, the fact that he disappears over the course of the story, maybe that's what the falling out between Sakurai and Miura was about.
Oh
Maybe
my
it was
gosh,
like-
I was thinking the same thing. So
Yeah.
I was thinking that Sakurai was more like Kei, and then Miura was Kai, and then I was just
Oh
like,
no.
Oh man.
I hope they're still friends. I hope they still look for bugs in
Well,
the
I feel-
forest together.
me too.
I feel like it's a problem when the coolest character is like the friend. But like to the extent it is in Volume 1, it's a bit too much. So I feel
Maybe
like
they're
he-
like,
he
uh-oh,
needed
friend
to
is
go.
too cool. We have
Yeah,
to...
yeah, friend is too cool. He should be
Put
the
him in
main
the back.
character
Yeah,
at
it's
this
back
point.
to the breaks.
I don't know. I think the coolest character was definitely the Ajin. That was the one character. I don't know if it counts as a character.
Yeah,
but-
who's
Yeah, which one though?
Ajin?
Which one?
Oh, the main one? I guess K's.
Oh, no, I
Kei's
mean,
Ajin.
yeah, okay, Kei's Ajin, yeah.
Because, it had dialogue. It was calling people on the telephone and whatnot. That was definitely the only character that would make me think, like, I want to read more of this. Looks badass. Can jump around and stab people real good.
Moves
And
on his own.
I don't know, just real like Venom vibes, like Spawn. It just reminded me
Yeah.
of those kinds of character designs. It very much appealed to my inner 12-year-old boy who just wants to see
Oh my
cool,
gosh.
badass
I almost
stuff
want you to
happening.
continue reading this because Sato-san, like as you get deeper and deeper into his story, you find out that he's a big gamer and he's also kind of old. It doesn't really come across
Oh,
in
that's
the
like
art.
me. I'm a big gamer.
You're kind of old. He's got a
Literally
Game
wearing
Boy
a
with
Mega
him.
Man t-shirt
Oh my,
right
he's
now.
got a Game Boy with him at all times. And he's always playing his Game Boy and that's all he wants to do.
That's basically he's living my dream life. So that's the answer to one of your future questions on
Doesn't
this
he also
episode
want to
right there.
like kill a lot of people?
Yeah, well, he
That's
wants,
where we differ.
he wants to like take over Japan, I think is like his overall
Yeah, same
thing.
as Jason.
Same as Jason, where it's
Listen,
like him and his Ajin
don't
buddies
blow
are
up
at
my
the top.
spot.
He's not trying to kill everyone.
He does mention that in this volume. He's like, yeah, I played some Super Mario Brothers and some Ice Climber. Like, dude,
yeah,
that's
he does
that's why he wants to
do
kill
that.
people. He grew up playing Ice Climber.
That's a
That's a
frustrating
shout out
enough.
to all my video game playing listeners out there. You
So
know what
you're
I'm
saying that
talking
Ice Climber just isn't Super Smash Brothers?
about. Listen, I don't even know how they found their way in there. It was a gimmick, the two characters in one thing.
Oh gosh, it's almost like two
Next
people can
question.
play a game at the same time. Okay, so Jason, what would you do if you found out you were incapable of dying? And don't say just play Ice Climbers until my fingers break.
Well, then ask Alex. I'm gonna have to think of a new. No, I think I would. I would go on a lot more risk-taking ventures. You know what I mean? I'd go swimming in the deep end of the pool.
Okay.
I would get the full-fat yogurt at the grocery store. Stay up past my bedtime. More than once
Whenever
a
your
week.
cholesterol got too high, you just like
I'd be like I'd
stab
eat
yourself
I'd
to
eat a
death.
fried egg in the doctor's office. I'd be
In
like,
the
"You
doctor's office.
too high. Watch this, doc." Pull out a slice of chocolate cake from my bag, eat it right in front of them. I I think I wouldn't go too crazy, but I think I would also not be worried about little things like do I have the right health insurance? Yeah, so I would just have my same life, but slightly more living on the edge.
Okay, Alex, what about you? Would you change anything about the way you live your life from day to day?
I said exactly the same thing as Jason. I said that I would
Drop
probably,
that life insurance policy?
Well, no, I don't have any like extra. I also don't have life insurance, so. But yeah, I would just mostly carry on, and then probably try skydiving or bungee jumping.
Oh no, I would still be too
do
scared.
a little bit of extreme sports, just because like I've always been afraid of like breaking my neck. There's like I have this fear of breaking my neck, so that's why I like never try to do like gymnastics or anything. But if I was an Ajin, then I think I would be less afraid of breaking my neck. So then I would do all the things that I thought could break my neck.
I wonder if I was an Ajin, if I would just stop going to the gym entirely. Like, what if you were an Ajin, but like just in really bad physical shape? And
There's a couple of
them,
and I don't think it really explains it. But I think this is just my guess, and I haven't read the series in like 2 or 3 years, so it's been a hot minute. But I think you get transported back to the state that you originally were when you died. And you just kind of stay that age. Except your like your body regenerates and you don't have any diseases anymore. So you have people of all ages being Ajin. And I don't really know if they age after they die once or if they just like stay that age for forever after that.
Wow. Well,
I don't know.
That sort of answers that.
I mean, they must age though because Kay, like, he saw his Ajin when he's young.
Also,
yeah,
Ajin
but he
is
didn't die.
only
He
one
hadn't
letter.
died yet.
Oh, but he hadn't died. Oh, okay.
So I think maybe you get stuck in the loop there, but I don't really know.
Oh, okay, it's when you die. Okay.
We'll have to ask Sakurai-san next time.
So I guess you want to die as soon as possible.
Well, I mean, not when you're a baby. That would suck.
not as baby.
Well,
like an angry baby.
Ajin?
An angry
It could
baby.
be a spin-off. Angry baby.
Look
Ajin.
who's talking now.
They tried to do that kind of thing with like Attack on Titans, like kindergarten.
Oh,
that
gosh.
spin off did not work.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Yeah, and Yaiba. There's a few of those.
Yeah.
Just when you can't leave well enough alone. Okay, well, speaking of world building, we all know that Sakurai is an amazing artist. Like, everything in this book just screams like top level superb artistry. The characters, I agree, are a little bit, a little bit paper thin, but it works. Now, what do you think about the world building? You've got this Ajin thing going on. You've got governments coming in to make some sort of power plays on each other. And of the books that we've read so far, and this is episode 16, so we've read, 15 now. How do you think this ranks compared to some of the other ones?
The scale seems really big compared to most of the books we've read. I think we've read a lot of stories that are pretty small, pretty self-contained, involving a few people in a neighborhood, for example, or, maybe in a country. But I mean, basically from the get-go, the scale of this story is global. It's worldwide. We know that there are like global hunts on for where are the Ajin around the world. So, from the jump, you're talking about like how many are in each country, and it's basically something that everyone seems to be concerned about. So in terms of the other books we've read, this might be the biggest scale. I guess obviously Captain Harlock is like interplanetary.
I don't know, like
so.
a snowball world?
Oh, yeah.
A bit bigger scale.
Okay.
Snowball Earth. Yeah. Snowball
There's a
Earth.
couple.
Snowball Earth.
Okay. That was definitely a
point.
global story. I mean, it's big.
It's
Can
like
you...
a space story, even.
Yeah, intergalactic planetary.
Intergalactic.
But at the same time, I think that the scale of this story also feels kind of like very loosey-goosey, like anybody could just show up at any time and be like, I'm from the Federal Investigation of Ajin Department. And, like...
I mean, don't they?
I'm going to need to see that badge
literally
again.
happened in this volume.
It did.
Yeah, it just seems like it's playing very fast and loose with whatever rules, which I think works for a story like this.
I mean, it's not Onna no Hoshi. What's that? Onna no Sono no Hoshi. It's a very different setting, and it's not trying to be that. I think it is trying to create a world, and I think one of the things that action, like supernatural thrillers, are tasked with is setting up the rules and explaining them as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you just get cut. And I think it does a good job of setting that up. I thought making the first Ajin come out of Africa was a little bit cheap, but other than that...
Wait, why is it cheap?
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. It's always like something from South America or Africa. I feel like it's always that.
It wasn't. It didn't feel that creative to me.
Fair enough.
But 2 out of Japan. Okay. And then he's the 3rd. But we find out that there's really, really many, many more. Okay.
I have to say, did either of you find the phrase Ajin community extremely funny? Because when I read the word Ajin community, it made me laugh out loud.
Did it sound like something you wanted to be a part of?
A little bit. It made me something I want to visit, like for a weekend.
It sounds like it would be in Setagayaku.
It's where
It
they
sounds
all
like
they can't die.
The name of a retirement home or something. I don't know.
There's a community for everyone out there.
Very inclusive.
Yeah, no matter who you are.
We take all kinds here. Okay, so let's go back to the artistry here. Did you have a favorite panel, Alex? I'd like to ask you, as the most talented artist out of all of us here, was there any panel that? I think we can say
we can have a draw off later.
We'll have a draw off later.
If
you want to step to this,
good for podcasts, draws.
Yeah.
Excellent podcast content.
Teach us the ways. What was your favorite? It doesn't have to be the best, but it can be your favorite.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be my favorite because like I feel like you can't have a best one, but like I mean although the one behind Jason is like one of the best panels, I think
That is pretty hot. I don't know why he sits like that though.
What's wrong with the way
when
he's
you're
sitting?
tied to a chair, that's the only way you gotta sit.
He's got really good
very
posture.
good.
Very,
posture,
you know, upright. Yeah, because when you're being tortured in like a government lab, they teach you good posture too.
Yeah.
Like it's not just the torture. But yeah,
Your
like when
KPIs.
Sato goes into the government facility and frees Tanaka-kun, and he meets him in person with all the dead bodies strewn across the
Little
floor
blood sachet
and blood
on the walls.
Like it's a good one. But the one that I picked before seeing which one that Jason had picked as his background image was during the motorbike chase. Like just having a motorbike chase is like very hard to draw.
The Akira
So, like,
vibes.
So that was like a huge like flex. I feel like it's a huge artist flex. That's why Akira has so many motorbikes, by the way. in case you
Because he's
didn't
so
know.
good.
Yeah,
Really?
It's like,
Otomo was just like,
whenever,
hey, watch
whenever
this?
an artist wants to flex how amazing they are, no, I'm just kidding. But like,
draw
I
bikes.
feel like it's like a huge flex whenever you do like a motorbike chase.
Good
Like,
to
it's just
know.
hard to draw. But then when Kai takes a rock and smashes it into the cyclist's face.
Yeah,
Like,
I was going to
really
say that
like
one as well.
That's
Part
hot.
because
That's
like
hot.
That was
also he
excellent.
has this earring that changes faces depending on what panel it is.
Are you
And in that panel, yeah, like if you look at all the panels and pay
Is that it?
attention to the faces on Kai, they like change expression
Oh my!
slightly.
I had no idea.
And this one is just very happy.
That's one of
to
the
be
other reasons why
smashing a
He seems like he's
motorcyclist
from
in
a
the
different
face.
manga.
Yeah,
does,
he's
it does.
got he's
And when
got
he was
so
a kid,
many
it wasn't an earring. It was a
smileys.
little button on his hat, right?
Yeah, when he was
Yeah.
a kid, he had the smileys on his hat.
Yeah, very cute.
Oh my gosh!
So yeah, Alex, I would have picked all the same ones basically. The only other one I would add in terms of like my favorite panels was there's a flashback. So shortly after we meet Erika, the sister, there's a flashback to Kei like protecting her, like he can see the Ajin, and he's got his arm up like to shield her, and she's turned away from the Ajin, and like she's crying. So it's just a really beautifully composed shot of the two kids kind of looking up, so it's from their point of view looking up at the Ajin with like a dark cloudy sky in the background, and I think that's beautiful. That image could like really stand on its own, and it's one of the few like really effective quiet moments in the book. Obviously mostly it's action, mostly it's very fast moving, but I thought that panel did a good job of setting a different kind of tone. Really nice. But and then of course the 2-page spread of the two Ajin kind of gracefully battle dancing with each other. It's
Yeah.
when we first see the
They're very
triangle head.
ribbony, so that's why it's a little bit graceful. I feel like they're kind of graceful because
Totally.
they look like ribbon. Like,
My kids
beings.
saw this volume on my desk, and they
guys.
were asking, "Daddy, what is this mummy manga that you're
What
reading?"
is this mummy manga?
And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good question."
Tutankhamun 4. Yeah. Wow. And then Brendan Fraser's finally getting his dues.
What about you, Mark? What panel did you like?
Oh, no, that's a really good question. So I definitely liked all the panels that you picked so far. One of the ones that stood out to me as just kind of a really artistic way to do things was when they start running. It's right after they beat up that cop, and then they take off. It doesn't have a page number on it, but it is 46 and 47. This double spread.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kai's got the smiley face. The way that you can feel the action lines taking place without actual action lines, but the way that the forest scenery blends in and out around them, just to show that sense of motion, I felt is really artistically done.
Yeah, there's a good sense of place in the book too. You feel like you're in a forest when you're reading those pages.
Yeah.
I think if we're digging on Ajin, it's really hard to dig on the art, but I wanted to ask, is there any panels that you did not like, that you felt were poorly composed, that there was just too much on the page? Just to look at the other side. I mean, if you think it's a perfect manga from the art side, then that's fine too, but I did want to ask the opposite question.
I mean, I don't think it's perfect. Some panels were noticeably stronger than others, but I can't think of a moment where I was like, nothing kind of landed in a weird way for me. And I also didn't get like first volume vibes where, sometimes it feels like the artist is trying to figure stuff out. Like, how does this character look? How do they move?
Still trying to learn how to draw shoes.
I don't know. I felt first volume vibes about Izumi. But I'm just yeah, just like
Please
the way
elaborate.
that she looks is like kind of like a bug-eyed troll to me.
Bug-eyed troll.
Sorry, I just really don't like the way like one of the first panels she's in, her eyes are like half her face and her eyelashes are like a third of her face, and then the rest is like her mouth. So I don't know, I just didn't love it.
I didn't like how she doesn't have a nose.
Yeah, she doesn't. Well, like most people don't have a nose, but it's more noticeable with her because her eyes are half her face.
And I take back what I said. Actually, there was one panel that I don't like, and I forgot about it. And it's like page 3, where he's looking at his flashcards,
and it's his closing ceremony.
And his face just looks really like, I don't know, indie Xbox Live game from 2008. Like I only know how to draw manga from my high school
this is
notebook.
from 2013, so.
But you know what I mean? It doesn't. That one panel just does not look professional the way the rest of this manga absolutely does. And maybe it's just because it's in color. I don't know.
It used up all his MP drawing that perfect closing ceremony.
It's very nice.
Yeah. You mean drawing the letters?
Yeah, drawing the letters, the Roman letters.
Famously, letter drawing takes a lot of concentration.
Well, that's a really important word to learn too.
I feel like this
artist in many different settings.
Is like good at realistic stuff. So whenever they try to make like giant eyes or like this like deformed style, maybe it comes across a little strange.
Could we say maybe
like
that
so good at realistic stuff?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I feel like maybe Sakurai is not great at drawing faces. Like maybe that's why
I don't know, like his
don't
face
have
is
faces.
like the people like who
After
have
that.
like adult faces are like have better expressions than the kids.
Yeah, but
and the like girl. So
they don't convey like a ton of emotion or I don't know, nuance. There's one panel also that I kind of didn't like, but for different reasons. It's the first time we see Tanaka as not all wrapped up
In a mummy suit.
and he's just like pulling on his lip for some reason.
Yeah,
It's
that was
page
kind of a
1.
weird tick.
I was like, I don't like that.
I think after you come out of like a government facility, you've been tortured.
Yeah, you kind of.
Don't you want to pull on your lip to make sure it's still there?
You find out that
That's what he's doing.
Tanaka is kind of a bad dude. He's not a nice guy, but I mean
He
he's
doesn't
been through a
strike me
lot.
as a nice guy. Yeah.
He's been through a lot. Like I mean, so one if you're
Am I
just
being too hard on him?
I mean, he just spent a couple of years in a government institution constantly being murdered in a variety of ways.
Yeah,
And then you find out later that it wasn't just like weapons testing for the government, which I guess maybe you can kind of consign yourself, okay, so this is my fate. But also the government like rents out Ajin to these big pharmaceutical companies and these other companies as well. You get into a little bit later in the series, and they're just making bukus of money on the side. It's terrible. And you can understand where the anger is coming from.
I totally do. I retract what I said. I'm sorry, Tanaka-san. So I've only read the first volume, and it sounds like both of y'all have read all of the volumes.
I didn't
Well,
read all
I
of
never
them.
read
Yeah.
17 because it wasn't out when I was
Oh,
hooked.
You should read the ending then.
Yeah,
So
but
I have a sneaking
haven't yet.
suspicion, like if I had to make a prediction for how this series goes, and I haven't read any of it, does it kind of just become, I want to say like torture porn? Does it just kind of become like, let's see all of the extravagant ways we can murder these dudes and then have them come back to life?
No, that's kind of like a MacGuffin to set up the reason why Sato-san and his... So it basically becomes Team Sato versus Team K. And it's like the bad Ajin who want to take over Japan and rule the world and whatnot versus the Ajin who just like want to be left alone.
Just want to live.
They just want to live their lives, man. And there's a
hippie
lot...
Ajin.
The hippie Ajin.
What isn't
The
it like
Ajin
the
community.
X-Men kind of?
It is. It is.
conundrum
It's
of,
very,
like,
very
Yeah.
X-Men
Totally
vibes.
X-Men.
Totally
Yeah.
X-Men. Yes. It's
And
like
he's
they all
even
have
got
the
the
same
hat.
powers.
And Sato's even got the hat. Like
Who has the
Magneto.
hat? The
Sato.
Magneto hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Magneto hat, is that what that is? Okay. Well, so speaking of X-Men, there's another thing that the Black Ghost, that which you guys are calling Ajin, reminded me of, and that was JoJo's stance. And I wanted to ask, who do you think did it better, or which do you prefer, and why? The stance in the worlds of JoJo from number 3 on, or the Black Ghost in Ajin. Alex, you have the most JoJo memorabilia in your house. Which do you prefer?
So by most, I actually have 0, but we
Tell the
did
truth.
go to Pompeii, and we did try to reenact some like battle sequences. So I
Okay.
think
So you have memories,
maybe, like,
just not
yeah,
memorabilia.
I have JoJo memories. Oh yeah, and when we went to Naples, we went on the
JoJo coaster?
the JoJo thing. So yeah, but I feel like the world has spoken on this issue in that one of them has extensive merch on the stands, and the other one has none.
Has kind of been forgotten.
Yeah, Ajin merch would just be like Tim Burton mummies. People would be like, what's that?
So I think the world has spoken, and they prefer the JoJo stands just because
You
they're
don't
more
have to
colorful.
agree with the world, Alex.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I often agree with the world because I'm lame like that. But like,
Fair
they
enough.
have colorful clothing.
They have
they've got
different
varied
personalities.
styles. They have personalities, and then you're always like, "What is this crazy ass thing gonna do?"
Yeah, you never really know what the power
So
is.
there's like the mystery. So I don't know. There's a lot of like waku waku, doki doki with the stands. So.
That's a lethal combination. Waku Waku
Yeah.
and Doki Doki. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of no contest. I think these here. What should we be calling them? Black ghosts? Have we been committing
That's-
a misnomer?
I call them shadows. Like I feel like
Shadows?
they seem like a shadow. Like
Okay.
but, yeah,
I will
but-
call them mummies.
Okay, you can call them mummies.
I think they look real neat. But yeah, I think stands offer way more variety. I think more memorable, probably. And also, from what I understand, stands were like a direct inspiration to the Persona character designs in the Persona games. And say what you will about those games, and there's a lot to say. But
I mean, I like
think,
them, but
yeah, I think some of the
Okay.
character designs of the Persona are also really cool to look at. So I don't know if these here Black Ghosts have really influenced anyone else to the same extent.
No, only the Mummy 4.
Maybe Black Knight Parade. You can see some Ajin DNA. in there a little
Okay,
bit.
yeah.
I mean, but I feel like that's more of like the
Dark
Tim
Santa.
Burton
Yeah, it's
aesthetic
just Jack
of like
Skellington.
kind of like the like I don't know.
Long, skinny guys with a
Yeah,
scary
long
face.
skinny guys that are like I don't know.
Mark. What do you think? Is there any contest between these guys and Stans?
No, JoJo stands went hand down. But I think one things that you can say that's really nice about the Ajin power system is that all the Ajin basically have the same set of powers to some degree, and that is what makes the face-off between Team Sato and Team K so Doki Doki Panic later on in the series, because they basically have to outsmart each other. It becomes a contest of wits, and the way they use their powers, it just gets wackier and wilder. as you get, but it's still the same powers each time. You know, regeneration and the stands and the
Yelling
stands
real loud.
Yelling real loud. That kind of goes out the window after you're fighting.
Yeah, I
Ajin.
feel like it's actually not that helpful.
That's not that helpful. It's like being able to pay for stuff with a credit card. It's handy, but
It's really exciting the first few times.
yeah, it's cashless payments. Okay, so speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, what did you think of Kei's mom's reaction? So this is after, you know, she's found out that her son was an Ajin, who, by the way, are not considered humans by the human race in this story. The cops are at the house talking to her, and then, I don't know. What did you guys think about that? Jason, I'd like to hear your thoughts as a mom.
Thank you. So her reaction is basically, I'm sorry that my son is not a human,
Yeah,
basically, if I remember correctly.
it was a very short reaction.
She's like, oh, I've
Damn
committed
it! I
a
birthed
miracle.
a demi-human.
Timmy.
I mean,
Go
that's
as
a
far as
fair
it goes.
reaction. What? Because you know, my my instinct is to say, well, that's pretty muted there, Mom. Is that really all you have to say? But then I tried to imagine if I was in that situation as a mom, and it's like, you'd probably be pretty shocked, right? You'd be sort of
definitely.
sad. I thought my son was a human. Turns out he's not.
Whoops.
You know,
So
just
what
kind
would
of-
you do if one of your kids, like the Kanagawa police, are at your door?
Like, would
and
you
they're here to
cooperate?
inform
Or?
you one of your children is not human?
Well, I think one thing that this mom doesn't seem to do that I would probably do is I would say, do you have any way of proving this? Do you have this on a piece of paper? Can you show me a document?
everyone-
Did anyone take a photo with
Yeah.
your Gattaca cell
Yeah,
phone?
everyone's phones are so crappy that they like.
That's
can you really
true.
trust that?
Before smartphones, nobody asked
Well,
for
this,
evidence.
this was 2012, right? I mean, you probably have like a grainy, like Docomo shot.
I actually had a smartphone in 2012, so
You were one of
me
10
too,
people.
yeah, no. I guess
were,
the Ajin author was like. I mean, I have a friend who's a mangaka now. She still does not have a smartphone.
She doesn't need it. She can
still
just draw
has
it.
the Gattaca.
If she needs something.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think that mangaka are just not a very technological group of people. So,
Okay.
So that's what was wrong with the mom's reaction.
She's just not
the
technological
mom's
enough. She just swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Also, like all the camera crews around her house or whatnot. I mean, that's got to be tiring.
Also, she appears to be there alone. You know, she's probably just like at the end of her
the dad's probably out at an omikai.
He's I don't know. He doesn't even know yet.
I gotta work late.
He got to work late. Oh my gosh.
The dad's probably like, I already knew he wasn't a human. I've been telling you that for years.
Oh,
So
yeah,
stop
ever
calling
since
me.
soccer practice. Okay, well, let me throw a wrench in this monkey. What if this were the mom from Blood on the Tracks? How do you think she would react if her son was an Ajin?
I think she'd throw the police officer off a cliff to see if he was an Ajin.
She'd be like, excellent. Now you will love me not just for all of your life, but for all of eternal time, eternity.
True motherhood right there.
I mean, did you bring that up because of the dead dog? Like, made you think of the dead cat? Because it made me.
Well, that
think
was
of
the
dead
theme
cat.
for this arc. Yeah, like dead dogs.
Did the dead pets theme.
It just goes in different ways. In this case, it spawns superpowers. Okay, so I think we've already discussed Kei's and Kai's friendship to death. It's nice, but it's also super like shonen manga tropey is what I thought. But I wanted to talk about another trope that's going on very deeply here in this, and this is with Japan manga and its reoccurring trope of introducing characters who are different than other humans, and oftentimes they are like. Yeah, I don't know, like monsters or beasts or what would typically be considered the bad guys, like bad characters, only to reveal later on that everyday humans were the real bad guys. As I think Volume 1 hits very hard. Like every single person that Kei runs into, except for Kai, his childhood friend, is basically out to get him for money, only looking out for themselves. Like everyone turns against him immediately the second that they found out that he's just different than them. Do you think this is something that's unique to Japanese literature, or do you think the same is just as constant in Western comics, Western literature as a whole? I'd like to hear your thoughts, Jason.
I think this is super common in all kinds of popular literature. It's definitely not a Japanese thing. It's definitely not a manga thing. Like, I mean, even Harry Potter, right? The Muggles are the nice people. Wait, no, that's the opposite. Okay, bad example. But so that's an example of the opposite, where humans actually are kind of just oblivious and they're not good.
I don't know,
or
like,
bad.
I feel like that's a weird, like, world to bring up, because I'm like, who is the good guy and, like, who's the bad guy? Like, I have absolutely no idea in that context.
Yeah, actually, let's put a pin in that. We can come back to that.
I was going to say Last of Us. I thought you were going to bring that up.
Oh, yeah, the giraffe.
Last of Us.
Yeah, who was really the monster, the giraffes or the humans?
Giraffe they really missed an opportunity. I think when the giraffe appears, a single tear should just roll down its long neck. And just the camera lingers on that. Okay, well, so like one example, I've been reading a ton of Cormac McCarthy books this year, just because, why not? And I think that's definitely a theme in his books. No, he doesn't necessarily create like the monster non-human character, but I think one of his messages is like, hey, there's an underlying current of evil that runs through humanity and always has, and we kind of enact it on each other. And then, I don't know, what about Frankenstein? Is that an example of this?
That is exactly that. Yes, it's not the monster that's been cobbled
It's not
together
the most
from
current
parts.
one, but yeah.
Did you know that Frankenstein is the name of the doctor and not the name of the monster?
Well, yeah, because the monster didn't have time to get a PhD.
Yeah.
That takes years.
A lot of people don't know that. I don't know, there's probably other examples too. What about you, Alex? What do you think?
I was gonna say that, like, yes, it's a very common theme, but also, like, the way that this manga started, I feel like didn't, like, allow it to really go into this much, because it immediately starts off with a classroom and the teacher, where the teacher doesn't even question the morality of something appearing human, of being human.
Oh, yeah.
The teacher is like, this is a classroom, and he's like, could Ajin be human? No, absolutely not, they're animals. And it's just like, wow. So a teacher is like,
What a stupid question.
Yeah, it's like a no nuance, and it's like, okay, is this what the educators of Japan think is okay? Like a non-nuanced conversation about the humanity of things? Like,
Well, could that be a sly comment on the state of
yeah, maybe
Japan's
that's
I
the
think
state
it
of
is.
Japan
I think it is.
in particular. But like from the start, you kind of feel bad for Ajin. Like
You do.
You,
It
you
sets it
don't-
up that way.
You don't fear them before. You like fear them after you realize they can do all this crazy shit. But like before, you're like, oh yeah, they're just like people who can't die, and like you can get a lot of money if you get one. And they're like leprechauns.
like Pokemon.
They're like leprechauns or Pokemon. Just wish I had a few more monster balls.
If you catch a leprechaun, do you get their
You
money?
get the pot of gold.
You get the pot of gold, man. Well, you have to go to the end of the rainbow. It's not that
Okay.
easy.
Well, don't they
But he'll
tell you where the
it is.
rainbows? Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Leprechaun, the movie. It was kind of about that.
I have a question. Are there lady leprechauns?
No.
Okay. So they just reproduce like mushrooms or something.
I'm not sure they reproduce. I'm pretty sure they're immortal.
Oh,
Just
they're
like Ajin.
And they like came from like dew or something.
Did they come from
Oh,
two?
like little drops of dew on plants?
And they eat those, they moisten their bowls of cereal with the morning dew?
That's adorable.
Sounds delicious. Okay, let's move into clothing thoughts. Alex, we've spent the better part of an hour here talking about Ajin. Is there anything that you'd like to add or state to the listenership before we move on?
I don't know, like, just if you really like action, then this is really a series for you. Like, I mean, I was reading it kind of as it came out, and then that's why I kind of dropped off. But I think if I had access to like all the volumes, like now that I know that it's done, maybe I will actually finish it. But yeah, it was kind of aggravating waiting for it to come out because it's so like fast paced and there's not a lot of dialogue. So
Yeah, you just
it's
consume it
like-
really fast.
Yeah, so you just go through really fast. So when there's not the next volume waiting for you, that could be really frustrating. But now that problem's solved, so actually there's no roadblock. So you can go ahead and enjoy it. And I think there's like a nice like country obachan that comes really soon, right?
What? That's one of my favorite
If memory
kinds of
serves me
characters. I would never have expected that.
Oh, and is that the one that takes Kay in for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm curious. Yeah, what you've described, that's exactly what happened to me with I Am a Hero. I was like super anxiously reading volumes as they came out, and then eventually I was just like, I guess I've moved on from this, and I have no idea how it ended. So while I was reading this, Mark, you made a comment in our group chat a while ago that was about, I can definitely understand why this became a super popular manga. And that was kind of my feeling while reading it. I was just like, yeah, this is technically very competent. It's fine storytelling. It moves really well. I can see why this is very popular. And I think that pretty much summarizes my feelings for it. And then the other day I was listening to a podcast about AI and the way AI is, influencing the creative industry. So, music and movies and TV and everything. And one of the tangents of the discussion was like, would you be that surprised if you found out that actually Dick Wolf was an AI? Like all of the Law and Order that you've been watching for the past 20 years, if you found out that those scripts were written by AIs, would you be that surprised? And so that's kind of something I was thinking about while reading this, which was just like, if I found out that Miura was kicked off the project because they had a Miura AI who could just finish the rest of the series, I'd be like 0% surprised, because it's just very competent action storytelling. And
but something that you've seen, like reminiscent
it
something
just
like
feels like
Okay.
it feels very much assembled of scenes and tropes and ideas that have happened elsewhere.
So even when you found out that Izumi was an Ajin, that didn't blow your mind?
Well, it blew my mind in a familiar way.
Okay.
Once your mind is blown, it can still be blown again in the future. So yeah,
Although
I feel
it's never quite as expensive.
Izumi being an Ajin was like one of the more tropey things, though. Yeah,
it's
it
kinda
was like, the young female coworker of this like super competent seeming guy is like, I
Of
wonder
course
what
she's
her
a
deal is.
Demi-Human.
Yeah, of course she's a Demi-Human. She isn't just like a high achieving like lady.
She's got to have a supernatural power.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And I thought Kodansha was above that. Okay, well, let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 ghost to 10 ghost, how many ghosts do you give it? Jason, you can ghost it first.
I give this book 3 Ajin in Japan, or maybe there are more.
Okay, Alex, what about you?
I don't know what the scale is, but I would
The
give
scale
it
is what you
4.
make it.
I'll give it 4 Ajin then.
Whoa.
Add another one on there.
Okay. I mean, gosh, I'm thoroughly impressed that this 3.5, if we take the average of our scores, 3.5 Ajin manga was able to spawn a successful manga that was created by Polygon, who also worked on the Clone Wars series, our favorite with Star Wars, and a live action movie, all in the span of just a few years. And then wrap up and move on. I don't think this guy's gone on to do anything else. It's only been 2 years. Maybe he's taking a break. I don't know. But I think it's wild that something this... I don't know, it's so contained, right? There's no video game based on this, but it can sell 10 million units. It can create a movie and whatnot. It's the power behind this kind of content that's just pumping out. And how many more series are there like this out there? It's absolutely wild. And that's one of the things that we want to get into in our next arc. We've discussed a lot about books that have been out for a few years now, even some series who have wrapped up. We wanted to take a look on the other side of that mirror. And then, Alex, what are we going to be reading next?
So I think by that you mean we're looking at new releases that don't have any like accomplishments yet.
Not
or
yet.
may never have any accomplishments. We don't know. So I picked up one was it beginning of April? It released in April. It's called Tonari no Hyakai Kenbun Roku, which is, I'm going to translate this as record of crazy neighborhood happenings. By
Wait, there is an English translation on the cover.
There is an English translation.
Hang on a sec, I'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll get the
Sorry,
cover.
read that one. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. It was like in the other room.
There's not like a translation of the manga that's been officially published as far as I know, but on the spine...
I mean, it just came out in
it says,
Japanese, so...
So your translation was good, Alex. The official one is Mysterious Encounters in My Neighborhood.
Mysterious Encounters in My Neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. Or my unofficial translation of the record of crazy neighborhood happenings.
I definitely like yours more.
But anyway, you get the gist. There's some crazy crazy stuff happening in this neighborhood, and there's a man, and he's ready to record everything that's happening.
He's just a rabid chronicler.
Yeah. It's
we should say that it's by Yoshiko Watanuki.
Yoshiko, yeah. Who apparently has done some stuff before that I just have not read at all. But yeah, I thought this looked interesting and picked it up. So can't wait to hear what everyone has to say about this unproven new book on the market.
Here is a sneak preview. I also love the artwork in this book. So we can talk about that.
Yeah, this artist is definitely good at the drawings.
That helps. That helps.
It's more horror than we've had so far, I feel.
Nice.
So look forward to that. Well, I don't know. Actually, wait. Never mind. I guess my last pick was even more horror.
It was pretty
It's
horrible.
hard to get
It was
more
pretty
horror
horrible.
than Blood on the Tracks.
You scared the heebie-jeebies out of my wife. She's like, "What is that manga that you left in the bathroom?" She's like, I read that all in 15 minutes. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Don't bring that in again.
I haven't slept since.
I haven't slept since. Okay. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been episode 16 of Mangaroos. We'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.